Hey, it's Tracy. I am sharing a Deco mesh wreath with you. I've had many requests to show how I make my Deco mesh wreaths, so I have a very lengthy video for you. So grab a glass of sweet tea or a cup of coffee or beverage of your choice, sit back, and I will show you how I create the Deco mesh wreaths as well as the tops of my wreaths, my hangers, and I also will show you how I hand paint or I hand painted this Happy Harvest sign that I put on in the middle of my Deco mesh wreath. So sit back and let's get started. Okay, creating Deco mesh wreaths are not hard. They just can be time consuming, and they can be as expensive or as inexpensive as you would like them, depending on your supplies. And I get a lot of my supplies at Hobby Lobby, of course. That is my favorite store. I also get stuff at Walmart and the other craft stores, but one of my favorite craft stores online to shop on is craftoutlet.com. They have really good prices, almost really comparative to wholesale, and so anyway, that's really a good place to shop. So taking my 20-inch poly mesh here, this mesh is orange and it has kind of a foil that's going through it, some glimmer, and so I'm just gathering it up. It doesn't matter where you start. Just going to gather the ends just like this, and I usually just let this roll just drop to the floor, and I'm going to start here on my inner circle, and I'm just going to twist it really tight and let it go. Don't twist it all the way because we're going to be putting some more stuff in it. Now, the only thing with doing your own work wreath is it kind of slides around a little bit, but it really is okay. If I get too irritated, I do have some little clamps that I will clamp, and it kind of stays in place. Usually about 12-inch poof, so just get you a ruler. And we're just going to measure from where that pinch is all the way to where your next pinch is. To the end, I'm untwisting that last tie, and I am just putting the edge of it in there so that it will all be together. I'm leaving just a little bit of the edge so that I can tuck it underneath. And if you want a more full wreath, then you can go back over it again, but just depending on how full you want it. Okay, this one right here is a roll of mesh that I did another wreath on, and so I want to use this up. There's not a whole lot left, but we're going to make some rolls, and how I do that is just lay this out and just take my scissors, I don't have a mat that is wide enough, so I just use my scissors, or you can use a rotary cutter. I'm just doing maybe about a foot, 12 inches for these. I'll just roll them up into a tube like this and just cut them in half with my scissors, just really easy. I find it easier if I am going to do rolls like this is to have those ready to go, to kind of figure out how many I need. And so now I'm just going to untwist all of those, or every single one of those green pine stems, and I'm just going to include some of these brown rolls with the glitter running through it on each of those to give it some depth and dimension as well as color. The more stuff you put in your wreath as far as ribbon, deco mesh, that kind of thing, the fuller your wreath will be. So it just really is a personal preference. Now I'm going to add some more colors. I'm using some 10-inch deco mesh, and I'm just cutting these both at the same time, just rolling them out on my mat and using my rotary cutter and cutting them at 12 inches each. Okay, I have my brown and yellow 12-inch strips cut out, and then now I'm using the ruffle technique, and this is just a way to gather your deco mesh, and I'm just gathering it in the center and pinching it, and then I am putting it in every other tie, like every other tie I'm putting in the brown and then alternating the brown and the yellow, and I will do this through the entire wreath. If you want, you could put both the brown and the yellow in a tie. Like I said, it just depends on how full and how much color and how much material you have will depend on how big and how much ribbon you'll need for your actual wreath. And just a reminder, I sped up this video because if I wouldn't, it would be 3 hours long. It just really depends, you know, I'm doing this video because I've had so many requests to show how I make my deco mesh wreaths, but I usually don't finish a wreath in one setting. And so honestly, I don't know how long it would take me. I like to mix and match my ribbons and styles and patterns, so I have some different ribbons here. I cut them into either 10 or 12-inch strips, fold it in half, and I will cut it into a V so it would kind of finish it off. I did that on both of those. On these burlap with the orange leaves, I just did a straight cross. And also this smaller chevron, I just folded it in half and then cut it at the V. Make sure that you pay attention so that you don't cut the V the wrong way. Now I am adding in my ribbon. I usually will alternate the ribbons. I will usually keep 2 together depending on the pattern. I like to use like 4 different ribbons in my wreaths, and so I'm just alternating the different styles. Like I had the chevron in this leaf one, and I like that one is a little bit narrower than the other one, just pinching it in the middle. And then I'm going to untwist this tie, and I'm going to pinch it again, and I'm going to put it in the tie and then twist it tight. I'm showing you, I will put the brown and then the yellow chevron in that tie. I just kind of like to alternate them. Like I said, you can put as many ribbons as different, you can put them in every single tie, you can alternate them, you can do every, you know, third one. It just really depends on what you and what look you're going for. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I create the top of my wreaths. I just use ribbon, and you know, you don't have to do this. You can hang it on a hook from that wire, but this is just something extra that I've started doing to my wreaths, and I just really like the way that it turns out. Just using some different ribbons that I'm going to thread through the back of that wire, and just using the same ribbons that were in the actual wreath. I have an orange pipe cleaner, and then also some orange rickrack that I will show you how I actually create the hanger, or actually the top of it, so that you can hang it on a hook. So I'm just threading the ribbon through the back of it and just kind of pulling it, kind of just trying to figure out how long I want it, because you also have to keep in mind I'm gonna put a pretty good length of the rickrack so that if a person hangs it on a door, you know, one of those over the door hooks or wreath hangers, that that the rickrack will go around those hooks. So anyway, just keep all of that in mind if you would like to use this kind of technique. So in order to keep that ribbon down and secure, I have some Aleene's tacky glue, and then I am putting the rickrack in there, kind of putting it down a little bit so that it will hold. And so then now I'm just going to make the top of the bow, and I just cut some burlap ribbon and then just cut a couple of pieces. They don't have to be the same length. Just cut some of those V's to finish them off. I like to use my Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher to just kind of attach everything. It works great with ribbon. One of my best friends, my best little tools in my craft room. Anyway, so then now I can just kind of pinch everything together, just kind of hold it all together, and then I will get my Chanel stem. I used a tan one in the finished bow, but I just was playing with it. I'm like, that orange is going to show, and I didn't want that to show. So anyway. All right, I'm going to glue the top bow at the top of my ribbon hanger, and just using some hot glue, and I will get one of my big clamps and clamp that so that it holds, and then I'll take it off when it's dry. Next, I will paint the Happy Harvest sign. This is just a crackling technique that I like to do for my signs, and you can kind of see I got it a little thicker at the bottom and thinner on the top. I'm using some brown paint just with a paintbrush, and I'm going to paint Happy Harvest. As I said, I have sped up this video so that it won't be so long, but I've had quite a few requests to show my wreaths as well as my painting, so that is what I'm doing for you. Next, I will use some orange paint, and I am just going to be adding some lines with a flat brush just all the way around my board. This is one of my favorite things to do with my painting. I love checkerboard, I love plaid, I love all of that, and so that just really is what shows through my projects. So I added some yellow next, just using a thin brush, and then just going around the actual letters just to highlight them. I just kind of go overboard with my painting. I know But it just is what's part of me, and this is how much time I really put into my projects, so I hope that you're not bored. I use the edge of my paintbrush to dip the end of it in paint and make some little dots all the way around my sign. Next, I will do some shading, and I think that this really brings it all to life. I'm using some brown paint, a paintbrush, some clean water, and a paper towel. So the first thing that I do is I dip half of my paintbrush in paint and the other half in water, and then I will take my paper towel and I will blend that. That's what that's called. That's called blending. And so if it's too much on there, it won't work. If it's too dry, it won't work. So it just takes a little bit of time, a little playing with it, lots of hits and misses, lots of practice, and eventually you'll get it. Mine are not perfect. I am in no way perfect, but I've been painting quite a while, so I kind of know how to mask my mistakes that I do, and that's just the beauty of painting, is that just figuring out what works for you and what works for your projects. I love to use a black Sharpie marker on my projects. I think that it just gives it that extra that I prefer to do for my projects. I always use the Sharpie brand because it does work the best, and it very seldom smears on my projects. So I just love the way that it looks. I'm going to outline this entire sign, and then I will also outline the letters just to kind of give it that extra color. I also like to splatter paint on my projects. I'm using a brown and a yellow, and I just thin that paint down with a little bit of water and just splatter it using an old toothbrush or a paintbrush, and with like an ice cream stick. And then I will, once it's completely dry, I will put a gloss varnish on all of my projects. The last thing I will do is attach my Happy Harvest sign. I like to have it a little different and just kind of, off center it just a little bit, but it's a personal preference. I attach my signs two different ways. One way is to use these screw eye hooks. You can get them at the craft store or at the hardware store, and then also with some wire. Just screw those in the back and then attach the wire, and then you can just, attach it to the wire frame. Or another way that I like to do attach my signs is by using my staple gun. And I have an electric staple gun. This is an Easy Fire Craftsman. I get this at Sears. And I have these different sizes of staples. And just depending on how wide your sign is will depend on which staple size you'll need. So I always, because I don't want the staple coming, you know, through the front. So I will measure how deep my staple is going to go. So then that will tell me what size of staple I will need for my actual sign. So what I do is I just kind of figure out where I want it, and I'll flip it over, my wreath over, and then I will just staple the deco mesh to the sign in as many places as I want it to. And I haven't received any feedback from anyone ever saying that their sign has fallen off, or any of the wreaths that I've done, I've never had any of the embellishments fall off. But it is a personal preference, but I just wanted to let you know the things that I do. And then I will just fluff all of the ribbon out and just kind of, you know, anything that got folded, just reposition it and stuff. I hope that you've enjoyed this Deco Mesh Wreath project. If there were any questions or anything that I did that wasn't clear, please leave me a comment below. I'll be happy to answer that if I can. And I love the way that the top of the wreath, you know, turned out. Using that extra little piece of rickrack gives an extra little hanger, and love that. The happy harvest sign, you know, just really just ties everything together for my actual projects. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you so much. Sorry again that this video was so super long, but that's what my followers have asked me to do, so I tried to be accommodating. Anyway, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!